Hello and welcome to GymLab Baptist Stoplight Music Theory. Parallel fifths, for or against. And now the blinker. If you are against parallel fifths, my guess is your history starts in 1600 Europe and ends in 1800 Europe. I don't really know. Because one of the first documented uses of harmony in Europe was parallel fifths. I think that's 1100? I'm not sure. Organum. And parallel fifths are used in everything. Okay, so let's back up. What are parallel fifths? Parallel fifths is when you have two notes that are a fifth apart, da-dum, and they both move in the same direction, the same amount every time. You know, Smells Like Teen Spirit, any power chords are all parallel fifths. Dun, dun, dun. Dun 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 dun. The fifth above it is dun 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 dun. Parallel fifths. In the late Renaissance, Baroque, and to some degree classical, there was this idea that when you wrote music with 2, 3, or 4 parts, that each of the parts needed to sound independent. By themselves, they were its own melody. But when you put them together, it was like, oh, they all fit perfectly. It's kind of like a TV show where you have 4 different plots that each make sense by itself, but when you put it together, it's like, wow, it all came together, that kind of thing. And so they call that counterpoint. One of the ways to make it sound like different melodies was to avoid parallel motion, and especially parallel fifths. Somebody just ran the light. Parallel fifths, perfect fifth, parallel fourths, and parallel octaves and unisons were basically not allowed. Parallel thirds and sixths were generally allowed. So outside of that, you can use parallel fifths all you want. I use parallel fifths all the time. The only reason I would say not to use them is if you're trying to sound like you're writing counterpoint or Baroque or classical music. You'll find that even they broke their own rules because I don't know if it was necessarily a rule, but just a practice. Anyway, barring about 200 years of European history, they've been fine. It's just that when you take music theory, tonal harmony in college, they sort of like make that one small aspect of music theory a huge focus. And so because of all the focus that's placed on it, I guess people think that it must be the most important. Anyway, parallel fifths, I heavily endorse.